Hello and welcome to the HHH Racing Podcast, episode 50. We are up to number 50. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz. Thank you so much for joining me on this special edition Monday night as we're going to cover a fantastic night, the Northern Lights Turf Festival night at Canterbury Park in Shakopee, Minnesota this Wednesday night. Before I bring on my guest, a few quick things. First, please make sure you subscribe right there on the right side of the screen. We are over 300 subscribers in a short period of time. I really appreciate all your support. Please make sure you subscribe. And after you do that, please hit that notification bell so you're aware when new content comes up on the show. Also, as you can see on the scroll on the bottom of the screen, follow me on Twitter at HKravitz, at HKravitz. It's a great follow. I have a lot of horse racing information. I'll be tweeting very often Wednesday night because I will be live at Canterbury Park. I'm very excited about that. You can also contact me through email at hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. Again, it's on the scroll on the bottom, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com if you have any questions, comments about the show. We're going to have a very active crowd tonight. Please make sure if you are watching live, you comment on the right side of the screen. We already have C Money is already here. C Money, thank you for the happy 50th. Greatly appreciate that. Please make sure you chat on the right side of the screen so we can have great viewership and conversation. A few quick reminders for you. Please sign up for the Race Day blog. All the information is below the video player in the description. It's only $12.99 for the entire month, and you get one blog every weekend. So it's only about $3 per blog, and a portion goes to the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. Again, all the information is below in the description, below the video player. I will say that the subscription does auto-renew at the beginning of the month. So you might want to wait until July 1st. You might want to wait one more week to subscribe to the Race Day blog if you have not signed up already, because again, on July 1st, it will auto-repay. So please sign up for the Race Day blog, give you great content. I had excellent information this past Saturday. We hit the late pick 5 at San Anita for $4,700. And a lot of that was because of the great opinions we had on this podcast and in the blog as well. Also, please make sure you go to inthemoneypodcast.com. As you all know, I cover Canterbury Park. It's one of the main reasons why we're here tonight and why we have our guest on the show. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays on inthemoneypodcast.com for my selections and analysis of the Canterbury Park card. And the one that I have coming on Wednesday is very detailed. So please make sure you check that out on inthemoneypodcast.com. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we don't want to waste too much time. Our guest will be with us for approximately an hour tonight. I'll let him introduce yourself. But we have live from Canterbury Park, I'm so happy to have the one and only Jeff Maday from Canterbury Park. Jeff, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Howard, thanks. Great to be here. Really looking forward to meeting you here at Canterbury, and this is going to be a big night of racing. It's really something we take pride in at Canterbury, and we love our racing. We take it seriously, but we like to have a good time as well. And every now and then we can roll out a card like this, and it's going to be a treat. I think I think on a Wednesday night with the stakes racing action that we've pretty much got the market to ourselves. So the handle should be big. The weather is fantastic. It's just going to be a great and entertaining night of racing.
We have a record number of people already watching. We have John Tucker is also going to be there on Wednesday. John, look forward to seeing you as well. We have Stone Casey is on the show already. We have a lot of people. Jeff, before we get into details about you a little bit, just tell everyone what you do there at Canterbury Park, as you are broadcasting, correct if I'm wrong, live from Canterbury Park as we speak.
Yeah, this is my office here. I've been here for, I guess I've worked at Canterbury 27 years now, I think it's been. I started in the industry as a fan first, and then I was a groom at Canterbury in the early 90s, working on the backside. And when the track, I guess I left. I remember leaving that winter in the October of 1991. And that's when it snowed. They still talk about it today. It snowed like 2 feet in Minneapolis. And I escaped, made it down to the Breeders' Cup that weekend, and then eventually ended up out in San Francisco for a couple of years. And after that's kind of when I really got a little more serious about handicapping. And I was a big Sarton guy back then, Howard Sarton. So that was kind of the approach I took at Golden Gate and at Bay Meadows. And back then you made your own par figures, your own par numbers, and like the Oracle Bruce Meyer, who's one of our public handicappers at Canterbury, like he said, it was a system that the system always works until it doesn't. And that was my experience with Sarton. And then I eventually left there and ended up at Fonder Park, of all places. And from there to Exarban in Omaha, the now defunct Exarban, which was a jewel of a racetrack, and came back to Minnesota to try to make myself relevant in the world at that point. And that's when Canterbury Park reopened, and I took a job here starting at the bottom and kind of gradually worked my way up. It was a great excuse to come to the racetrack. I was working in the program stand, I think, and also was back in school at the time. But Sheila Williams was the media relations director then, and she's the one that kind of took me under her wing and brought me into the press box, along with David Miller, who's our Equibase chart caller here now, and he's done a lot of things in the industry as well. And they kind of brought me into Canterbury, and I haven't left. They haven't gotten rid of me yet, and here I am today.
Could you just quickly talk about as the media relations director, just very quickly talk about your day-to-day operation? What do you do there usually on a daily basis?
Well, it's kind of two-pronged. I'm also the player development manager, so I work a lot with our racing customers, just dealing with the day in and day out kind of promotions and and dealing with issues that might arise. But also, as far as the media relations part of it goes, it's like anyone else in the PR business, pitching stories, trying to come up with different ideas, writing stories for the blog, managing egos, things like that. But we're fortunate here in Minneapolis, in the Minneapolis Star Tribune, that they still have a horse racing beat writer, Rachel Blount, who's a fabulous writer, and she's been covering racing since 1995, when they're actually 94 when the Sampsons bought the track, and every meet since 1995. So I try to work with her, come up with story ideas, and they still give us a lot of space. I think we're one of the few newspapers that A, has a public handicapper with Jay Litzow, and B, has results and entries posted every day in print in the newspaper. And we've seen that's gone away from a lot of the major.
Yeah, you don't see that in the Agate anymore. I remember I'm from Chicago area, you'd see that in the Tribune and the Sun-Times, the two main newspapers, all the time. You'd see the picks, you'd see the racing card. That everything has changed, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're fortunate that we're still in there.
Absolutely, that's great.
And it's something that we take pride in. And we've always had, going back to Steve Davidowitz, who was the handicapper and reporter at what was then Canterbury Downs back in the mid-90s. But we've had a lot of great handicappers in the Star Tribune. Most recently, Jay Litzow is doing it this year, but Johnny Love, for a number of years, was the handicapper in the Star Tribune. And Kevin Gorg did it for a while, Steve Tall, Steve Unowski, just some real good handicappers and guys that you still see at the racetrack today. So we were fortunate. Last year they didn't include us in the paper, but the sports page, let's face it, the sports page was about 4 pages last year. Now I opened it up today, and there was probably 16 pages of sports coverage. So they got us back in, and it's something that you still see when race fans come to the track. You see that Star Tribune, Jay's picks are cut out and in someone's back pocket. So that's a good feeling that there's still a lot of casual race fans out there that make their way to the racetrack.
Well, the Twin Cities is such a great sports town. I look forward to see you and coming to the track for the first time on Wednesday. For those people watching the show live or who will be watching a replay, I know there's a lot of interest in Wednesday night. Can you first please talk about where and how people can watch the races Wednesday night? I believe Fox Sports has gotten involved with the coverage as well for Wednesday night.
Yeah, there's a couple ways to watch it. We broadcast our live racing every day on YouTube. If you go to our website, canterburypark.com, on the right-hand side, there's a link to click to that live broadcast of the YouTube broadcast of our races. So that's a great way to watch it. Of course, all your ADWs, NYRA bets, Express Bet, TVG, they all carry us. Twin Spires carries, takes Canterbury's signal as well. So those are places you can watch it. And then you're correct that America's Day at the Races is going to broadcast the entire card on Wednesday night. Michelle Yu, who's an analyst and host on the broadcast, is coming to Shakopee, actually. So she'll be here live as well. So that's an opportunity to kind of present our racing. We've been on a couple times this season, kind of running. They've been showing our races between Churchill or something on those Thursdays, but we pretty much have it all to ourselves on Wednesday night. And I think we'll put on a good show. I mean, there's a lot of personalities here and a lot of opportunity for Michelle to go behind the scenes and look at the racing at Canterbury. So it's going to be a great introduction, Howard. And I think we found that last year. I hope I'm not getting too far off the beaten path here, but we had for 25 years, we'd run Thursday, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday afternoon. Well, on Saturday, Sunday afternoons, as you know, you're going against all the heavy heads, whoever it is, Churchill in the spring, and then along comes Del Mar and Saratoga. And we were kind of forgotten. Last year during the pandemic, when we first reopened, there weren't too many tracks running in June of last year. And we decided, because we couldn't have fans, there were sporting events could have no spectators or very limited spectators, that we would run Monday through Thursday. And our handle went from probably averaging before that time around 600,000 to averaging nearly $1.5 million. And that, we're hearing every day from people that had never heard of Canterbury Park, similar to what happened a few months before that. If you remember when Fawner Park and Will Rogers were really the only track running. Like, people were discovering this bull ring, which is a fantastic race made at Fawner Park, but discovering it, same thing happened here, and we're seeing that carry over now to this year too. So there's a lot of new race fans out there playing Canterbury.
Jeff, I have to tell you very briefly, I had a guest handicapper from the UK to help us cover Ascot. I asked him what is his favorite new track or one of his favorite tracks in the US. And he said Fawner Park, which you would never get that answer from someone from the UK. It's just great. But along with Michelle Yu, who is on my show, I look forward to meeting her. I think Jonathan Kitchen will be talking about the races from the studio. You have such great on-air talent with Angela Herman and Brian Aragoni, and of course Paul Allen. Just a great crew. Looking forward to it. Last question before we get into the handicap, or actually until we get into my famous 10 minutes to post segment, and then we'll get into handicapping. So please bear with us as we talk to Jeff Maday, the media relations director at Canterbury Park. There's a contest, a live money contest also, that I'm sure you'd like to promote Wednesday. Can you talk about that a little bit, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been involved in handicapping contests, and again, I tend to ramble a little bit, Howard, but we've been doing live money contests of one kind or another at Canterbury since 1994, I believe it was. So I think we're possibly the first live bankroll contest, and for sure the longest running, with our Dog Days contest, which happens in September. So handicapping contests has been something we've been involved in for a long time. I don't know if you've ever crossed paths with Ross Gallo, the Gallo family, but for a number of years, he held his ultimate handicapping challenge here at Canterbury. And that's that crazy format where you start out with 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever the number is, but every race you have to bet half your bankroll. So if you hit for 5,000, your next bet is 2,500 and so on. We did that for a while. And that was fun. But this year we decided that we were going to really dive in and try to go national. So this is our first time where you can play either at Canterbury or across the ADWs, Naira Bets, Express Bet, TVG. So people playing from all over the country are going to play for an opportunity tomorrow, or on Wednesday night, in a $300 entry contest to win a $3,000 entry into our September 16th contest, where we're guaranteeing no fewer than 10 BCBC seats, 2 NHC seats, at least $10,000 in cash. So more than $120,000 in cash and prizes in that contest. But a way to win your way in is Wednesday with a $100 entry fee, $200 live bankroll, and you're going to have the opportunity and the choice to play any or all of our 10 races. So and there's no takeout. That's another thing about this contest, Howard, that it's a $100 entry fee plus that bankroll, $3,000 prize, one winner for every 30 entries. So there's zero takeout in this. Whatever you do with that 200, whatever happens, at the end of the day, that money goes back to you, back to the player. So it's a chance to take a shot and have an opinion about the Canterbury races. and win a prize that could eventually get you to the Breeders' Cup betting challenge. So I think it's a cool format. I don't know what to expect as far as entries go, but I know the racing is going to be good. The rules can all be found at CanterburyPark.com.
Yeah, I think there'll be a great amount of people. I am playing in the contest, so for those of you that have been upset with me with maybe a pick that I gave out on the podcast in the last 4 months, you can come after me on Wednesday night. I know Canterbury Park would appreciate the handle. So, Jeff, I have a very well-liked segment. It's going to be very quick because I know you're short on time tonight. People want to hear about our handicapping. So we're being very quick, rapid fire, and the segment is called 10 minutes to post. 10 minutes to post, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be 10 rapid fire questions, Jeff. So literally, 1-2 word answers. We're not going to expound on the answers so we can get to the handicapping. Jeff does not know what these questions are. So we're going to learn more about Jeff. And let's do this, Jeff, because obviously you work at Canterbury Park. Let's exclude Canterbury Park from any of your answers of these questions. You'll see what I mean when they come up. They'll be on the bottom of the screen. Are you ready, Jeff? Here we go.
I'm ready.
Favorite track you've attended?
Oaklawn Park.
Fantastic. And Hot Springs, their meet's starting in December now. They've changed the meet. Next question. Your favorite track to bet?
Remington Park Quarter Horses.
Wow. Okay. They have a very good quarter horse racing program. I am not a huge quarter horse racing fan. I respect it. It's very interesting. But if we had more time, we'd get into that. But you do run quarter horses at Canterbury Park for those people that like quarter horse racing as well, correct?
We do. We've got a mixed meet. We run a couple on Tuesdays throughout the meet, yes.
Terrific. Do you have a favorite type of bet? Are you more of a vertical player or a horizontal player?
I think the win bet is probably my favorite bet.
Plain and simple. Real easy. The best or most memorable horse racing event you've ever attended?
Probably that 91 Breeders' Cup when I escaped the snowstorm.
Wow. Terrific. Where was that again? The 91
I was
Breeders'
at
Cup?
Churchill Downs.
At Churchill. Fantastic. The most memorable non-horse racing sports event you've ever attended?
See, now that's a tricky one. Probably was one of the Twins' playoff wins in that first playoff in their first World Series run. I would say that would be it. That was in the old Metrodome.
Kirby Puckett and the boys. What a fun team that was to watch. Do you have a bucket list track or race day event anywhere in the world you'd like to attend that you've not been to?
I've never been to Saratoga. That's a place I'd love to go. We run right on top of them, so it's hard for me to get away, but that's a track that I have to get to.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite horse of all time?
Well, I do. Stillwater Billy from back in the early 90s at Canterbury, or late 80s, early 90s at Canterbury Park was one of my all-time favorites.
Thought you might say Mr. Jägermeister. He's got to be up there. What an incredible horse he is. All-time Minnesota bred. Do you have a favorite jockey?
That's a tough one.
Could be someone running now. It doesn't. Again, let's exclude Canterbury Park. I don't want to put you in a tough situation. Perhaps someone from back in the day, or someone you like very much right now.
A jockey that I really admired, and he passed away a number of years ago, but it was a guy that you got your money's worth as a bettor, Chris Valovich.
What's the best aspect of working at Canterbury Park?
Yeah, it's the people. From the customers that are here every day. My fellow employees and the horsemen when they come to town. That's what really makes it fun, because they're all equally unpredictable.
That's a great answer. That's my number one answer of why I enjoy doing this podcast. I've only been doing it for a little over 4 months. The people I've met, like yourself and others, and just the horse racing community is fantastic. Last question, Jeff, then we're going to get into our handicapping. Do you have a favorite personality on TV that covers horse racing? You either like them because they've given you some good winners, or you just like the way they present themselves? Again, excluding anyone involved in Canterbury Park.
Well, Howard, that's simple. It's Michelle Yu, of course.
Of course. She's fantastic. Again, boy, what a joy she was to have on my show. I look forward to speaking with her. All right, Jeff Maday and everyone out there, let's get on to the races at Canterbury Park. Now, they have 10 races on Wednesday. They have multiple. They have a few pick fours, I believe. There's also a 10% takeout in the pick 5 and the pick 6. We're going to focus mainly on the stake races, ladies and gentlemen, which are races 3 through 8. If you're interested in finding out about the exotics, especially horizontal, when you get the past performances, they are in there. I know there's a pick 4 within the sequence. The pick 6 starts obviously in race 5, and the pick 6 starts in race 6. But Jeff, we're going to start out as I bring the PPs up here for us. We're going to go ahead and start with race 3. And I also have on the bottom of the screen, ladies and gentlemen, in a moment, as I wear many hats on this show, you're going to see the predictions, the analysis, our final picks that we have for each race. And you see them on the bottom of the screen right now. There you go. H is Howard. J is Jeff. Jeff has not seen my picks at all. So we are quite different on many races, which is great because we can have good conversation. So, Jeff, I'm going to let you go ahead and start out with race 3. It's the 1 mile turf race. There are many great turf races on Wednesday. Curtis Sampson Oaks Stakes, 100,000 K. Jeff, who are you going with?
Well, I handicap for speed in these turf races because that's the way this turf course is played. Now, let's throw this caveat out there, though. It hadn't rained in 3 weeks, at least 3 weeks' time. We've had 90-degree temperatures, record heat wave for June, and the turf course has just favored the horses. Whoever gets to the lead is pretty much hung around. Now, it rained a little bit yesterday, and the turf rail, the portable rail, is now set at 0. So, in theory, I could be completely wrong, right? And we're going to get a chance to see the turf course tomorrow, and then maybe I might have to readjust my picks. But I've been impressed with the trainer, with Dick Cappellucci, this is his first season at Canterbury Park. He's a longtime New Mexico guy who raced in Phoenix this year because the New Mexico tracks were closed. But Pretty in Pink has got a ton of speed. And I think if this horse can get the lead, it's got a chance I think she has a chance to hang on. And I don't see a whole ton of speed in here. So I think, other than Spritz, maybe to her outside, that 8 horse, but I think Pretty in Pink with this, the Luis Fuentes, there's 2 Fuentes riding here. Luis is the younger brother of Ruben. He seems to be extremely talented. Now, I'm going to need a lifetime best effort. Let's not, the horse is 15-1 for a reason because it's leaps and bounds as far as buyer figure numbers lower than the horse who's really the nuts, which is the 9 Saranya, right? Where that's, Brad Cox, Flo Giroux comes in to ride. I'm sure you've got this one on top. I look at your numbers. Most people do that are sane probably have Saranya as the most likely winner. I reserve the right to change my mind, but I'm going to take a shot at Pretty in Pink on the lead, and let's just see.
I love the selection. Again, people that are playing in these live money contests, you got to think a little bit out of the box, right? Even though it is live money, it's not a pick and pray. For those of you that are familiar with contests, if you can find that one price horse, you can win a contest in one race. I mean, you got $200. You love this horse. This horse goes off at, let's say, double digits. You put, 50, 100 to win on, just go for it, and he wins. All of a sudden, you got she wins, excuse me. All of a sudden, you got a chance to win the contest in one race. She is a little bit interesting. I'm going with sort of the moto obvious, Saranya. The last 2 races at Fairgrounds were extremely slow paces she was trying to close into, and she still closed well. She was up closer to the lead last time in the Appalachian out of necessity, and Jouster wired the field. I think Drew is going to set a really nice trip off of the 8 Spritz and off of your horse, Jess, the 7 Pretty in Pink. I think Saranya is going to be pretty tough in here. I do think the 5 Amalfi Princess is interesting for Maker and Santana. Just to give everyone some stats, a lot of people think about Santana as a dirt jockey, but he does ride for Maker quite a bit on the turf. In fact, he's won 16% of the time for Maker on the turf, and he's 38% in the money for Maker on the turf. So Ricardo Santana has ridden for Maker many times in the past. He's here only to ride the Maker turf horses. Amalfi Princess can show some tactical speed. If she can get the distance, that's my only concern. But if she can get the distance, I think she's very dangerous to win this race. Is there anything else you'd like to mention about race 3, Jeff?
You'll see Mike Maker with horses throughout the night, and don't sleep on Mike Maker. He's had 50 starters here at Canterbury going back to the early days of the Claiming Crown. He's had 16 winners and made over $1 million in purse earnings at Canterbury alone. So and then Mike Maker will win a race at 9-2, and it's like, well, yeah, no kidding. I mean, Maker, when he comes here, and he usually comes in person as well, he comes to win. He's not just shipping to make an owner happy. He's shipping to win. So don't sleep on the maker horses.
Absolutely not. And we already answered this question, but some people might have joined us late. Jeff, just very quickly, if you could answer C Manny's question there on the bottom about how the turf course is playing.
It is playing towards speed. It's been, we're going to get to that 5 furlong race later in the card, and that 5 furlong distance has really been the front end. But in general, the turf course is hard. And you talk to the trainers, and they'll tell you the same thing. It hasn't rained since that last night, like 4 weeks ago, other than yesterday, the small amount when we were on FS2 and we got rained off the turf. So
yeah. And it's also been
been
very hot, unusually hot there we're not even, technically it's not even the summer yet. So it has been very hot there as well. It's interesting though, Jeff, everyone hears the turf is fast. The turf is fast. It's playing to speed, playing to speed. And then you're going to see a 22-3-45 and you're going to see a bunch of closers win. So you never know. It's going to be very interesting to see. Let's go on to race 4. You see our picks there on the screen. We'll let our guest Jeff start. Jeff, this is the Dark Star Turf Sprint 100K, 5 furlongs. If you blink, the race will be over. There are a lot of nice horses in this race. Not surprisingly, plenty of speed. Jeff, you are going with perhaps the speed of the speed for Larry Ravelli, the number 8, Well Abled.
I'm hoping that is the speed of the speed. Well Abled came in last year for Larry Ravelli, and we ran the Honor the Hero turf stake that night on this Northern Stars night, and jumped out to the lead and crushed in record time. And I gave Jareth Loveberry, the jockey, a call. Jareth rode here for a number of years. Last year, he left right after he crushed on Northern Stars night. He went down to Chicago when Arlington reopened to ride for Ravelli. And, now he's winning 30-40% down there. But he knows this turf course. I talked to him about that outside post position, and his response was that, yeah, I love it out there because now I've got an option. I don't have to just go.
Sorry, this was last year's race. He was 3-5 against a very talented horse in Chief Cicatrice.
Yeah, and you watch him here. This is a very talented racehorse, and I think Jareth is going to have that outside attack position. And I'm confident this horse is ready to run. I don't think we're going to get a big price here. I think it's second choice on the morning line. Might end up as the favorite though, but would be no surprise to me if Well Abled goes gate to wire here.
And for those of you that aren't familiar with Canterbury Park, you see it's fairly tight turns, and there is that opening there in the stretch. There's a gap there, and Well Abled won that race last year. Very impressive time. He was the big favorite that day. You've got a horse that I obviously like. I have on top, High Crime in second. Why don't you talk a little bit about High Crime?
That one's interesting to me, and I think Emily Gullickson from Optics EQ is doing some handicapping for us on our blog at CanterburyLive.com. That was a horse that she pointed out, at least by the Optics plot, that has a big shot. Here's my question, though, for you, Howard. You see the jockey, Chase Miller, right? That's Darren Miller's son, 27-year-old jockey who just got his first career victory, I believe, last month or a few weeks ago. I'm sure he's a great hand. I mean, he's been galloping for years. I think he rode 3 professional races maybe a decade ago. You can say, well Abel's riding for, Loveberry's riding for Ravelli, and of course he's winning 30%. Well, we used to say that the same thing about Russell Bays, right? Well, he just rides for Hollendorfer. But yeah, he knows where to put a horse to win. And that's what Loveberry's learning now. I bet you he's 10 times the jockey he was when he left here a year ago because he's experienced winning. He knows exactly what to do. I'm not sure.
He's winning. Sorry to interrupt you. He's winning right now, right down the street from me at Arlington this summer.
Yeah, and now we've got Chase Miller, who's a relatively new jockey. Sure, he's been around a lot, but this is a high pressure race, I think, as far as the pace goes. I'm not convinced he's going to make the right decisions. I'm convinced Jareth will.
Here's my feeling on High Crime. And by the way, everything that Jeff said is exactly right. Chase Miller, by the way, also finished second twice at Churchill recently on big long shots. So I think he's a pretty talented young jockey. Here's my opinion overall, Jeff, in terms of the jockey situation. If you have a young, inexperienced jockey, I think 5 furlongs on the turf is the perfect kind of race for him or her. There are not a lot of decisions to make in this race, right? They're just going to let him go. I think he's going to set a perfect trip behind all the speed, and he's got a lot of back class. He's also got blinkers off. He's got Lasix back on. There's a lot of things I like about High Crime in this race. If he gets the right trip, I think he wins. I've got number 7, Drina's Star, who you don't have anywhere, interestingly, in your top 3 in second. Yes, there are turf questions, but boy, Jeff, this horse is awfully good right now. I thought last race was pretty impressive in this scratched off Honor the Hero, where he actually passed horses and came up the inside just off the pace of a very quick, jazzy times. But you're against Drina's Star in this spot.
Well, you can't have them all. You only wanted 3. So,
That's
but
true.
and Robert Pina Diodoro is a guy he's been training here for a number of years now, and he certainly is omnipresent now on the national scene all around the country. You look at his percentage at Canterbury, he's winning at 32%. If he wins, it would not be a surprise to me with this horse. I just thought that there were better options. And we talked about the speed of the speed. I know this horse in the slop came off the pace. I don't think that's going to be the case on the turf course, on a firm turf course.
No.
And I just don't see the trip working out. Of
Well,
course, I could be wrong, but I'm playing against Drina's Star.
For what it's worth, for people that use DRF formulator and people that don't, especially, if you look at the very top left, above the last PP, you see that Timeform US pace rating. According to Timeform, Jeff, Drina Star is a 125 and Well-Abled a 121. So according to Timeform, the 7 is just as quick as the 8. We'll see. You also got speed from Chessmaster, who broke the track record last time in 54 in 4. I'm not sure we're going to see that Wednesday, only because the turf might not be quite as firm as it has been, but they're going to go quick. And in third, both Jeff and I have the same idea. Fireman Oscar and Minister of Soul both can close, both have good enough numbers that if this thing gets crazy, either one of these horses could win at a big price, Jeff.
Yeah, you're right. If we're right about all this speed, and maybe they all do hook up and they go like crazy, then why not a horse like Fireman Oscar at a big price closing up? And he's going to be, I think 10-1 might be short on that horse. He's 1 for 15 on the turf course, 0 for 9 at the 5 furlong distance. There's not a whole lot to like about him other than his running style is going to be, if they come back, he'll be firing along. But that's my stab there. Maybe one if I was playing the try or something, I'd try to get into the mix.
And my stab is the 3 for similar reasons, although the 3 is much more tactical than the 2 and ran good enough 2 back against a pretty good horse in Navy Armed Guard. I just want to very quick end this by talking about the 8, who I am absolutely completely against. No disrespect to Jeff Maday whatsoever. I could be completely wrong. Jeff, my feeling here is this horse was much better last year. I know he had only one race this year at Arlington. I was not very impressed with that race. This is much better competition. There's a good chance I think he's going to be wide. I think the only chance the 8 can win is if he outbreaks the field and gets an easy lead. Now, that could happen, but at a short price, Jeff, I'm just betting against it. I do not like Well-Abled in this spot. That's the great thing about horse racing. Different opinions. Let's go on to race 5. A very interesting race as I go ahead and switch our picks to race 5. You see them. We have the same horse on top in this race. This is a very interesting race, Jeff, because it's an auction. These horses are coming out of an auction sale, which I'll let you talk about a little bit if you'd like. So these are not all Minnesota breds. We both have the 6 Mowing Line favorite here, who looks pretty tough on paper, Star of the North.
Right. I think 8-5 would be a dream on this horse. I think she'll probably be 1-5 just based on her past performances, her 4 for 5 lifetime record. But there's some knocks here. This is a filly taking on the boys, but they're still relatively young, so I don't hold that against her. But and you mentioned it's a stallion auction stakes, so this is any most states, and we saw the same thing in Texas, and in fact, Star of the North ran in some restricted stallion stakes down in Texas at Sam Houston. But horses that go, or stallions that are sold at an auction, and they do that to raise money for the breeders fund and for the breeder, that operation, can run in these stakes. So they can be from anywhere. Last year they ran this race, and Gerald Bennett shipped one in that had been running in Florida and beat up on a bunch of Minnesota breds. So you can see those kind of things happen. But so what Star of the North beat at Sam Houston was not a whole lot. But she did it impressively. Won the Northern Lights debutante here last year against Minnesota breds. Now, maybe one cause for concern was she was to run against Older in the Lady Slipper Stakes on opening weekend at Canterbury, and the jock got up and the horse went down the bridle path, and she threw the jock and went into the fence, and they scratched her out of for good reason, right? The state vet is walking behind the field, and they scratched her from their race. But I guess my point is that she missed a prep race. That was a race that they wanted to run in. I mean, this race has been on the books here, and Francisco Bravo, who's a heck of a trainer, and he spotted those races at Houston pretty well. He knew this race was coming up. He wanted to get a race in her, and now we haven't seen her since February 27th. So that could be a knock. But if it's not her, who is it, right? This starts that $1 pick six that you mentioned. This is going to be a single for probably 95% of the people playing this race, because if this isn't the winner, where do you go? There's one possibility.
Eric Bialik, who I was on the podcast earlier today on the In the Money Players podcast. So, folks, you can check that out on In the Money Network. Eric Bialik, myself, and Peter Thomas Forental chopped up this entire sequence. Eric thought this horse would be 3-5, the number 6. So he agrees with you. I have the 2 and the 3 on the screen here. These are the horses we have in second. There are 2 first-time starters. Tony Rengsdorf, very good trainer, has a Shackleford colt in here in a stake race.
Yeah, that one interests me. And Winchester Place Thoroughbreds, you're going to see some later in the card that Ian Wilkes trains. Laurie Michaels has done a lot of breeding and racing in Minnesota, but also in Kentucky. She's the name behind Winchester Place Thoroughbreds. They're 6 for 14 at the meet. At one point, I think they were 6 for 9 at the meet. So Rengsdorf has got these Winchester Place horses running well. That one, and the horse is bred well and has a good shot to win. I see you've got Just Chillin' on the screen as well. That's the third horse from Michael Grossman, the owner, who owns Star of the North. But he's got 3 horses in this race, which is interesting to me too. I'm having a hard time figuring out what the end game is here. Maybe Star of the North is just that good, but but it seems like you wouldn't need to waste a race if you really thought she was going to win. So there's a lot of intrigue here for me. I'm having a hard time figuring this out, because if you can beat Star of the North, you're opening up a world of possibilities.
I just wanted to show the stats for Rengsdorf. First time out, only 14%, Jeff, for his career, 31% of the money. I think it's interesting that they put this horse here, but if you're coming out of this auction, why not? I mean, why run in the main race when you can run for a lot more against horses in theory that are better than maidens, of course, but really there are no superstars in here, so to speak. Just Chillin', I thought, might sit the trip off of Star of the North, and maybe things will work out. But frankly, I don't love Just Chillin', and I thought number 7, West of Waverly, if they go crazy up front, would be the one to possibly upset the apple cart. Had a no chance against a very nice horse in the Alligator Hunter, who I believe has won twice already at the meet. There is one question I want to answer for folks out there before we move on to the next. John Tucker wants to know, and I'll go and answer this, and Jeff, if you want to expound on my answer, where's Mr. Jägermeister, Drop a Golden Sun? We're all these very good Minnesota breds. Why aren't they on the card? The answer, John, is because mainly this is a big turf day. These horses are not turf horses. They're mainly dirt horses, and the allowance races they have, these horses don't qualify for. So this is just not the kind of day for these very talented Minnesota breds. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a chance to make some money down the road for these horses, and there really isn't a spot that fits any of them that's their specialty.
Right. You will see these horses, of course, later in the meet several more times. Let's go on to race 6. Race 6, you see our picks there on the bottom of the screen as I go ahead and switch to race 6. Jeff, I'm going to go first, if you don't mind, to switch it up a little bit. This is the 1 mile Lady Canterbury, 100,000 K. Again, a mile on turf. There's a big scratch in here, and I'm very glad, Jeff, you gave us some inside intel, including the inside intel on Star of the North. Obviously, I did not know about that issue that she had, and that's That's very interesting that Star of the North missed a race. So you never know. Sometimes that could have a huge effect on a horse. But best kept secret, the 7, according to Jeff, is not going to be running in this race for Kelsey Haar. That takes a lot of speed out of the race. I'm going with the 8, Evil Lynn, for Maker and Santana. Boy, Jeff, this horse is starting to really get good right now. That last race, even though she finished third, was extremely good. It was her Beyer top of 88. This horse looks like that she can either lay close or just off the pace, which the pace is a lot more murky now. But I think this is just the most talented horse. I trust Santana is going to work out the trip. You have Evil Lynn in second, so we both like her.
Yeah, and I think you're probably on the right horse. That's the Mike Maker Santana combination, and that horse looks the part of, especially if the turf course comes up, to not necessarily favor the speed horses. I think this horse is going to get a very good trip. But but you've got Urban Fairy Tale trained by Ian Wilkes with Florent Giroux aboard, but then you also have the Ian Wilkes trained Princess Causeway, both owned by Winchester Place. But his son-in-law, Chris Landeros, gets Princess Causeway. So that was the way I leaned. I love that bullet workout from an Ian Wilkes horse on June 16th. Generally, Wilkes horses, you look at the other workouts, they don't work that fast. He's a Carl Nafsker protege.
Here's all the works just for people. I know there's a lot to look at, but in
Yeah.
general, if you look at most, especially the recent works, there aren't too many fast ones.
No, I mean, and that's to me. I found the same with Carl Nafsker, who Wilkes tutored under forever. That when they fire a bullet, they often come back and run big. And I think the price is going to drift up on this horse. I think I can get a decent trip. It's going to have to improve. I mean, she's going to have to run, probably the best race of her life. But I'm going to get the price here. So this is one that I'm going to mess around with in the exotics and for sure have it in the pick 5. Absolutely have it in the pick 5.
And here are the layoff stats. It's not horrible. 14% off a 6-month or more layoff, 37% in the money. You have to think this horse is feeling good, Jeff. Otherwise, Wilkes wouldn't put this horse in that spot. And I don't have her in her top 3, but I'm always interested, Jeff, in the other Wilkes, right? Everyone's going to be probably laying. I don't know if actually in this situation, I'm not sure if Urban Fairy Tale is going to take more money, but everyone sees Giroux. And I think it was an excellent point you made. That the jockey gymnastics or musical chairs game is always a dangerous one. But how many times, Jeff, in your betting career, do you see a trainer put in 2 and the quote unquote less likely one ends up beating the stablemate? Happens all the time, correct?
Oh, absolutely. We always hear it's the other Chad Brown, right? We see that all the time.
Absolutely. I just want to mention the 5, Lady Lawyer, who's the second choice. This horse is coming off of Chad Brown into Mike Stidham's barn, but Michael Stidham, unless you've been hiding under a rock, is a very good Midwestern trainer. Jeff, I think this horse might be the speed in this race. I'm interested to see what Loveberry will do. If this horse can get the distance, you see 3 starts back on 89 Beyer, although with an extremely slow pace. I'm very interested in Lady Laura. You don't have this horse anywhere. Were you afraid of the distance, or you just wanted to be a little more creative?
The horse certainly is a contender. And this is another one that Jareth Loveberry is riding. And as I said, he knows this turf course and he's a very good judge of pace. I just decided to look a different direction, but you're absolutely right about Mike Stidham. He, for a short time, ran a string of horses up here at Canterbury. So he knows the talent that can come in on these kind of race days. Again, that would be one. This is a race where I think you're going to have to go deep if you're playing the pick 5. Evil Lynn could be a single for some people. They're just going to say, I'm going to take Maker and make a stand here. I think this Lady Canterbury is incredibly contentious. And I have to go back and remind myself, but Lady Canterbury, this is the 29th running of the Lady Canterbury. I think the favorite has won maybe 3 times. So this is a race that's produced upsets. This is the KZ Bay race. And there's been multiple double-digit horses winning the Lady Canterbury. And I'm going to try to find one that's going to be a big price.
I don't think that's ever a bad idea, especially for you contest players out there. Jeff, we've got about 10 more minutes for you on the show. Again, if you're watching this live, please make sure you chat on the right side of the screen. I'm sure some of you are now looking at the past performances for the first time. And then comment below the video player any questions or any opinions you have of the races on Wednesday night that we've handicapping. I'm very interested in hearing all of your opinions, not only of these races, but of the show as well. Let's move on to the seventh race, Jeff. This is a very nice race as I go ahead and put the picks up on the screen and go ahead and switch. This is the 1 mile Mystic Lake mile on the turf, 100K. This is for older males. You got some very nice horses in here with top connections. And Jeff, you are going with the number 8 horse, Tut's Revenge, for a lower profile connections. This is, by the way, a field of 9. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, yeah, Clint Stewart's the trainer. He's a very good trainer. He's not having the best of meets right now. 1 for 28, I can see on your screen. Tufts Revenge won the Mystic Lake Mile last year at 5-1, and did not need the lead. This is a horse that has some tactical speed, but I think the horse. I think Tufts Revenge could probably take the lead here with Chirinos aboard if that's the decision that's to be made from that outside post from the 8 hole. I think we're going to get a good trip. And I think this horse is coming into the race the way that they want to. They tried to get on the turf the last 2 times. It got rained off both times. The Brooksfields was a little roughly run when the 3 horses came down the stretch and there was some bumping going on in there. Tufts Revenge, I think, will bounce back off of that race onto the turf, into a turf course that's favoring speed with a decent post position here. I'm just taking a look at a little bit of a price. But again, I really looked at speed as I did my handicapping. I think Tufts Revenge is the one that can dictate the pace here.
And you've got the horse just outside, Hieronymus, in second. Again, they did battle last time along with Lord Dragon. What kind of trip do you see for Hieronymus? Do you think Hieronymus can clear Tut's Revenge? I think that's really the entire race right there, right? What are these 2 outside horses going to do? Plus, I think the 1 also could show speed. So this is a very interesting race from the pace dynamic, isn't it?
No, I agree. I think this becomes a rider's race, and you've got Florent Giroux, a top 5 rider in the country, on Hieronymus for Brad Cox. So, and these are star-studded connections here. Godolphin is the owner. I mean, what am I doing picking Clint Stewart, who's 1 for 28? Well, I'm gonna try to work a miracle here, just like last year in the Mystic Lake Mile. But I think those 2 do go out and probably battle. I'm hoping that they keep a reasonable pace. I think Tufts Revenge has a chance to possibly kick on a little bit stronger than Hieronymus does. He seems like a pretty useful colt. He's 4 for 8, obviously, lifetime, so he's not done much wrong. But I don't think this is the best of the best from Brad Cox's barn. I think this is I was surprised that he shipped up here for the Brooks Fields, and then that they also ran on the sloppy track. I just assumed that they would scratch off, and they did not. So, but he's back to try it again. I think you're right that those 2 battles, Cinco Star on the rail for Mac Robertson, the all-time leading trainer at Canterbury Park, all-time leading purse-earning trainer at Canterbury Park. Mac is going to surprise somewhere. Might not be a win, but he's going to get in the money with the price somehow. So I think that horse has a shot. I'm going to let you talk about Parlor, a horse that I don't even have in my top 3, and I've seen other handicappers like you, who I respect, like Parlor. Somehow I missed it. And then I want to mention Giant Payday as well. Joel Burnt, Dean Butler. This is a talented horse. Giant Payday won the Mystic Lake Derby at 3, and you lost this race by a head last year to Tufts Revenge. Giant Payday could win, and it's 10-1, and is going to get that trip. So this is another race that just speaks to the depth that we talked about at the outset. That this is an incredible card, and I think you could make a case for a lot of horses in here.
My gut feeling with the 1, Cinco Star, who's got the leading jockey right now at Canterbury, Quinones up. I think they're going. I think the only way this horse can win, Jeff, is by sending. So my feeling here, in terms of from the handicapping angle, is at some point, Jeff, the 1, 8, and 9 are going to hook up. Maybe not on the first turn, but on the backstretch or somewhere. I do not envision a slow pace here. I've been wrong, especially New York, by the way, many times about that. But it sure seems to me, and I would not take a short price on Parlor, Jeff. I just want to make that very clear to the viewers. I would not take a short price on Parlor. I think Parlor's best days are probably behind him. He's a 7-year-old gelding, but Michael Maker knows exactly what he has with this horse. That's why this horse is not in some big graded stake. He needed the race last time. And I mentioned on the podcast earlier today, Jeff, look who Parlor has lost to in the last several races. Spooky Channel, Factor This, War of Will, Flavius, Ivar, Frostborn, and Set Piece last time, who is a very sharp horse for Cox. So my feeling here, Jeff, is I hope I get that 5-2, maybe 3-1. Parlor, I think, is just going to sit a dream trip in behind the leaders and just go by when it counts. But this horse does not have to win, and he certainly has to race better than he did last time. Very quickly, so we can have time to be on the last race, you have Summer Assault, an interesting younger 4-year-old gelding for another underrated trainer who I've seen many times in my neck of the woods, Arlington Park, Michelle Boyce.
Right. Summer Assault, if you go back in the past performances to last year, won the 1 mile on the turf Mystic Lake Derby with Loveberry aboard for trainer Michelle Boyce, and got a nice trip, probably a trip similar to what we're going to see. I asked Loveberry this morning about, because the horse hasn't won since that Mystic Lake Derby last year, right? Summer Assault has not found the winner's circle. He had an excuse for the Keeneland race, coming off the layoff against some pretty nice stock, that $80,000 allowance. And then at Arlington, he said that, he blamed himself, Loveberry. He had a terrible ride and still managed to finish second. He couldn't really speak to that race on the 5th of June at Arlington since he was not the rider, but he seems to think that this horse is training well, that Summer Assault is coming into this race pretty well. We know the horse knows the course, and we've got a jockey that knows the course as well. So again, you're almost looking at pressing the all button in this thing. At least I am. I mean, this is crazy.
John, another comment from John. John, I totally agree with you. Loveberry's a very good jockey. Again, Santana and Drew are going to take a ton of money on Wednesday, Jeff. And listen, Jared Loveberry, he knows the turf course. He's gotten some live mounts. Would not surprise me. By the way, I was at Arlington Park that day when he was on Summer Assault and bet with both hands the winner, just wired the field at a relatively slow pace. And I bet Summer Assault, so believe me, I remember that race. I appreciate Jared pointing out that he didn't ride well because I was a little bit disappointed, frankly, in the ride. But this horse is talented. One more quick comment by C Money. You could be exactly right, C Money. I mean, Parlor has burned some money in the past, so he looks fast on paper based on his previous races. But sometimes these horses are just pack animals, right, Jeff? Sometimes they just don't want to pass. They run up and down to their competition.
Yeah, you're right. And that could be the case with Parlor. It's just 6 for 33. He's only won one race in the last 10 starts. So C Money might be right about this, that the horse just performs well enough to hit the board and not actually win.
Let's get on to the last race. This is the biggest race on the card. It's the biggest purse in the entire meeting of Canterbury Park. It's a great race every year. I've watched this race for years on TV, and I'm going to be there live to watch it. And Jeff, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire and Paul Allen's feet. He told me on my podcast with him that he was going to invite me up into the booth to watch this race. So I hope I'll have that chance to watch him in the booth live call this race. It's the Mystic Lake Derby. It's 150K. You can see we have different horses on top. It is for restricted 3-year-olds, and Jeff Maday is going with the 8, a very, very interesting horse for Ian Wilkes, Modern Science.
Extremely well bred. Bob Lothenbach Stables was our leading owner last year. He's got horses with Ian Wilkes. He's got horses here with Joel Burnt, Neil Pessin also, I believe. If I could think of the bell, what's the horse that just won over the weekend, the Graded Stakes?
Oh, man.
That's
nice dirt filly. Yeah. I'm drawing a blank, but yes, she's a nice horse.
Lothenbach has some very nice horses, and I hate this is another one. It did take him 4 starts to break the maiden. So we're talking about a horse that just broke its maiden now, and we're expecting it to win a stake race. But I think there's a lot to be liked about Modern Science. I think second off the layoff for Wilkes we've talked about already. He's got Landeros aboard. I think I'm going to get a bit of a price. I think this horse is tactical.
Sorry to interrupt. Bell's the one. Thank you, C Money.
Yeah, exactly. Bell's the one. Exactly. Now a millionaire. So the Lothenbach Stables, they're accustomed to winning big races and have won this race in the past as well. In fact, Giant Payday is a Lothenbach horse that won the Mystic Lake Derby at 3. So I just think things point in the direction of this horse running a huge, huge effort. Good enough to win. I'm hoping so, because this is a fairly talented group here, but I just see some upside with Modern Science in the trip. and the jockey trainer combination as well. So that's where I'm going to cast my lot, and I hope that I'm right in this one.
A few quick things about Modern Science. Number one, has a very good workout report from what I understand from Churchill. Number two, the fact that this horse just broke his maiden, normally I would say that's a negative, but I got to tell you, Jeff, I think that's a huge confidence sign from Ian Wilkes. He could have easily run this horse in N1X somewhere, at Churchill or Ellis, but he decides to come here. This horse is bred by a pretty good sire, by the way, Galileo. Hello. And these Galileos usually are a little better as they get older. Modern Science, very interesting horse. I've got the number 6 TD Dance on top. Folks, if you want to watch a replay, and we're running a little bit short on time tonight, so I'm not going to show the replay. TD Dance was unbelievable in the stretch last time. Was in hand the entire way, Jeff. Exploded through a hole. Did get a very good trip. That last quarter for TD Dance, Jeff, in the last race, 22-1. 22-1 final quarter. Yes, the Pimlico turf was pretty firm on Preakness weekend. This horse has got a ton of upside. I trust Giroux. I'm leaning on this horse pretty heavily in the pick 5 and in the contest, mainly because I think I will get 5-2, and I don't think this horse is going to be a big favorite. I like this horse a lot. We both have the 2 Chess's Dream. Really quickly, any thoughts about Chess's Dream, Jeff?
I'm willing to throw out that last race and just go back. I like the way the horse finishes. I'm a big final fraction guy, and I did see that big number on TD Dance as well. But I like horses that finish in turf racing. I think this is a horse that can. And let's face it, we're at the end of the night, Howard. After race 8 is over, we're probably going to look at each other and say, well, let's see. Brad Cox won, Mike Maker won, Ian Wilkes won, and I'll probably have an empty wallet. So, they're going to win their share of the races here, I think. And you might be on the right horse with TD Dance. And, and it could be Mike Maker as well. But we know they're showing up to play. And that's what makes this fun, is that we know they're going to take a lot of money, too. So I think there's opportunity to find some of the lesser-known trainers.
I'm always looking for value. I think all good handicappers do. I would just be a little bit careful trying to find value that isn't there in some of these races, Jeff, because then I think you're just throwing money away. But absolutely, there are a lot of really interesting horses. Very quickly, the pick 5 ends in race 9 and 10. Jeff, do you have any opinions very quickly in race 9? You want to throw some numbers out there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a 6 furlong race, and there's some back to Capalucci, who I talked about earlier in the day. He changed the 3 ornamental iron, who's 8-1 on the morning line on a big drop. I don't see that number happening, but I think that horse is certainly a contender. You got some other Mac Robertsons in here, Oscar Flores, who trains for Danny Caldwell, who's a well-known name in Midwest racing. Certainly is. Those are contenders. But I think these races 9 and 10, might be more difficult than the stakes races, actually, because they're fairly evenly matched.
For those of you that play in the contest, I know there are mandatory plays that you have to, not mandatory races, but you have to spend a certain amount. I'm going to try very hard. Hopefully I'll have money in my pocketbook, Jeff, by race 9, but I hope I do. One of my long shots of the night, by the way, is the number 6 in race 9. Showed big time speed last time at Turf Paradise. Very well-bred horse. Has worked well over the Canterbury strip. The 6 is one of my long shot plays of the entire night in race 9, and I like the 7 also in that race. As you can see, we'll quickly talk about my pick 5 on the screen. And then, Jeff, the last race is absolutely impossible. I'm interested again in the number 6 horse. I apologize, I don't have the names in front of me, but I know the 6 in the last race against King Fury and Obesos in the spring, in the winter and early part of 2021. If the 6 is ready off the layoff in the last race, I think he is also very interesting. Jeff, any comments about the last race, race 10?
No, I looked a long time at that 6 too. Eric Heitzman is a very good horseman, a Louisiana guy that's back at Canterbury again this year. It's a 3-year-old that's going to face older for the first time. So, but it's almost July. That shouldn't be an issue. And I think this is the easiest field. You're right. The easiest field that Crime Spree has faced.
Crime Spree.
And you get Luis Negron, who might not be a household name to players around the country, but he's new here at Canterbury. He's a New Mexico guy he's ridden in Louisiana. He's ridden in Texas. He's from Puerto Rico. He's won a graded stake race there. He's a talented jockey. Don't be afraid to bet. And when you look at the Canterbury riders, Lindy Wade is riding here. Kennedy, Dean Butler, who we've never even mentioned. He's on Beach Flower and the Lady Canterbury. With Mac Robertson. We've got such a talented jockey colony here that, Florent Giroux's coming in and Santana, but we've got our own here, and these guys know this racetrack, and they are very talented riders. So don't be afraid to, don't throw a horse out because it doesn't have the big name riding it. We've got a very good, probably the deepest colony we've had here in a decade or more.
Well, I was going to say, Jeff, I've been betting and watching Canterbury Park for years. I'm a big fan of the track. I just want to echo those same sentiments. This is a very good and deep jockey colony at Canterbury Park. They can easily win a lot of these races. Very quickly, last thing, Jeff, you see my caveman ticket. I'm an ABC player, as people that follow this podcast know. Highly recommend you use the ABC ticket maker method. But I like to throw a caveman ticket out there for people that don't have as much experience. Do you want to comment a little bit either on my ticket, or if you were to put together a pick 5 ticket, Jeff, is there a horse you'd really lay into or single or key in on in this sequence?
Well, I'm taking a look here. If I was forced to, I might take a stand on Modern Science, actually, and just say, let's build around that horse, hoping that I'm right, that there's that talent there. But, I am going against some of the heavy heads. I don't see a single in races 8 and 9. And I agree with you in that last race that you've got to cover a ton of horses. But I am having a hard time finding a single in this card. I don't have one yet. If I see that speed is really, we run 3 turf races tomorrow. If we have wire-to-wire winners in those races, that might change my opinion about some of these front runners I have, like Tut's Revenge, who I think is going to get that front running trip, but I know can finish on this track. So I'm going to wait one more day and see what I can find out here about some of these races. And that's another advantage that players have right now. They're going to get to see one more day of racing at Canterbury with the rail set at 0 after that small rainstorm that we had on Sunday. And I think it would be well worth the time to tune in. If you can't watch live, watch the replays and just see what happened in those 3 turf races tomorrow.
Jeff Maday, I'm going to let you go. If you could stay on just for a quick second as I take you off the screen, if you have a minute. I cannot thank you enough, Jeff, for helping the viewers out there handicap what's going to be an amazing day. The weather's going to be nice and warm and sunny. Amazing day of races Wednesday night. Jeff, thanks again for joining us. Good luck with the crowd, and everything's going to go wonderfully, I'm sure, at Canterbury Park for the Northern Lights Turf Festival 2021. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, folks, that was Jeff Maday from Canterbury Park. Really appreciate Jeff being on the show and all the comments he had. He's an excellent handicapper as well. I've heard him come up with some price shots. He had some very creative opinions as well as I did. Listen, don't just bet Giroux and Santana and Maker and Cox all night long. There are a lot of very interesting horses. Just want to remind everyone, our next live stream is Thursday night. Thursday night, our usual time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Again, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to chop up a fantastic card at Churchill Downs this Saturday. It's their closing weekend. It's Stephen Foster Day. They have 4 stakes. Again, a great card. Please join me on Thursday night right here on the HHH Racing podcast as we go through the stake races and the late pick 5 at Churchill Downs. And once again, follow me on Twitter at HKravitz and email me hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. And also, please make sure down below the video player, I'd love to hear from you. Comments about the show or any opinions you have at Canterbury Park Wednesday night. Thanks for joining me tonight. This has been a great episode, folks. It's been episode 50. So I'm very proud to have 50 shows and growing. We have over 300 subscribers on this channel, and it's growing every day. Please make sure you subscribe. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. Good luck at Canterbury Park on Wednesday night. Take care, everyone.